So let's imagine you've just done Reiki. You got the weekend, you've come home, and you're thinking like, "Well, this is quite something. I wasn't expecting this." And you find yourself maybe a little bit discombobulated. You're a little bit unsure of what are you supposed to do with it. You got this energy suddenly coming through your hands, and you're thinking like, "Okay, what's next thing?" You know something profound's happening with you. You know there's some big changes going on. And you can't quite fathom about what it's really all about. And there are these five, what I call powerful steps that are really at the cornerstone of Reiki. It's what we call the Reiki precepts. And I'll tell you now, one of my favorites is the third one. I'm going to talk about that later with you. Stick around if you want to know a little bit more about that one, especially. But they are all really quite significant and really build up the cornerstone of your whole Reiki practice. But it's not just about Reiki. You can apply these to life in general. So you could be watching this with this element of curiosity. What's this Gary on about this Reiki stuff? I want to know a bit more. You can apply these principles to your life because they are so relevant, but they are very much a part of Reiki and a cornerstone of your Reiki practice. It certainly changed the way I see the world, the way I live my life, really. And go back to discuss who I am, because you might be thinking, well, I don't know who this bloke is. He's talking about Reiki, but he might have just read about it in a book for all we know. Could just be giving us a load of flannel. I've been doing Reiki for about 10 years now, I suppose, and it made huge changes to my life. As I was saying, it makes me see things so differently. Get to work with energy, get to work and making changes in my life, but also other people that I've worked with. And it does. You can see some amazing results. I've also had the privilege of training quite a few people now in Reiki. I've trained many people. And between us, we've kind of built a lot of us. I mean, some people drift away. That's natural. That's life, isn't it? But quite a few have come together. We're forming this beautiful community of healers, but just not even healers. I like to think people of like-minded souls who are trying in their own way to make a difference out there. And my goodness, let's be honest, this crazy world of ours needs a little bit of flipping love and light right now, doesn't it? So let's keep sending that to where it's needed. And so you're thinking to yourself, okay, Gary, well, you keep on about these five powerful steps, how we can change our life. What are they then? So let's start with number one. Numero uno. Just for today, do not anger. Many of us find in life that there are times we will get angry. Don't care who you are. You could be the most placid person, lady, man in the world. Something will happen one day and you get triggered and you're going to get angry. Angry sometimes is an emotion that is kind of like an overreaction. And don't get me wrong, there will be times when anger is justified. After all, it's very primal. And it stems back from when you are being threatened, life-threatening situations. You might need that anger to get a little bit of a gumption into you so you can sort of deal with scary situations, or you might freeze. It can go the other way. But anger kept you alive when that great big lion was running towards you, and you got to show a little bit of fight, haven't you? So there is that energy, and that, it's natural. That's a natural reaction. But there are many times in ours, I'm sure we'll agree, when we get angry over nothing. Let's imagine you're a boss in a company somewhere and you've got someone working for you and everybody's getting their quotas done, but there's this one person who's late and you're thinking like, for God's sake, yeah, and you're on their case, getting angry with them, sort of like table thumping and God knows what else. And you think to yourself, where's that coming from? Why are you so angry with that person? Because I'm sure you'll agree, deep down, that probably seems a bit off kilter, a little bit unjustified, if I'm going to be honest. If if that person is genuinely doing their best, getting angry at them is not going to change anything, is it? But then I suppose there is this element where you're thinking, well, these are the standards that are acceptable, so I'm going to whip that person into shape one way or another. It's very antiquated, old-fashioned way of thinking, and very kind of like stuck in the past. But there we go. This is how an anger energy can come on, and it comes from fear. Maybe the fear is that boss is going to get called by his boss and saying, like, why is this person underperforming? So he's going to like pass it down, isn't it? And that's what happens, don't it? I'm not going to swear on here, but the muck comes down, doesn't it? And right at the bottom of that pile will be the person copying it. So maybe that's one way, I suppose, look at it. Maybe you've got your own thoughts on that. Maybe share them with me on there. That'd be great. Just in the comments, just comment below and tell you what you think about that. And anger, another obvious one is driving, because you could be really chilled out, and then someone does this crazy maneuver, they overtake you, and you're like, whoa, what's that all about? And yeah, it happens to me. I get angry, I'm not going to lie to you. Don't be thinking I'm all pious and never get angry in my life. I'm pretty chilled most of the time, but there are times when you do get triggered. But it's later, isn't it, when you step back and you think, like, where does that come from? And I suppose it is the fear, because that person may have endangered you in some way. And the third angle I'm going to look at is getting angry is like, when you pull into the side of a road, let someone through, and you're waiting for the thank you, and they just drive on by. And you think, like, why you little beep, 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 beep. Again, that's not really fear-based though, is it? Curiously. That's almost like a territorial kind of like ceding your territory to someone they're coming through. What are your thoughts on that? Because I'd like to hear your angle on that, because I'm not sure if that's anger or something else. So tap into that and see what you feel right now, what that could be, because sometimes I need a bit of wisdom too. So share your thoughts, and I'll certainly take them on board about where that particular angle of anger comes from. And of course, there's group anger. I don't want to go into politics right now because I don't want to give energy into that craziness that's going on out there. But again, people get whipped up into an anger storm, don't they, very easily. And us as Reiki healers, what we can do, we can send our light out there because it's needed to kind of like, just get everyone to step into the vibration of love again, rather than these lower vibrational energies, which are kind of on the march right now. But it will change. Those lower energies are going to be shifted off. It's this. This is what happens when new high energy comes in. Those vibrations go. But this is a whole different subject. Second, worry. Just for today, do not worry. We are so often getting drawn into the aspects of thinking about what's going to happen next, and it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's like, I've got a big job interview next week. Oh, I'm really nervous. I'm scared about it. I could go in there, make a right fool of myself. I might not get the job. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to be out of work. Blah blah blah. And we suddenly panicking about all these different scenarios. And while we're panicking, you know what you're doing? You're making those scenarios. You're giving them substance. You could potentially make that happen instead of getting into the energy. I think you're like, oh wow, a new job interview. I can't wait to see where that's going to lead me. It'll be brilliant. Or let's go for the doctor's appointment. You're going to say like, oh, I've had this problem with the doctor. The doctor says, got to see you pretty much as soon as possible. And you're, oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong? And you start dreaming up all these scenarios, what it could be. An opposite approach would say you get called in and said, oh, brilliant, I'm going to find out what's wrong, find out what this issue is, get it healed, and I can get back to being me again. So there are concerns about the aspect of worry, but really what it boils down to with worry, and the whole of these principles, these precepts, it is about being in the present moment. If you are truly in the present moment, you're not going to get angry because you're here and present. You're certainly not going to worry because that's in the future. Well, what's the point of worrying about what potentially could happen that's negative? So when you're here, in this present moment, when you're centered, worry can't exist if you're truly present. But of course, the mind is going to try and hook you in. It's going to say, "Oh, this is happening next week. This is going to go on." Let's imagine you've sent out birthday invites, and you think, "Oh my God, what if no one? Not if no one comes?" You know. So again, it's that worry element, especially when you're doing events and stuff like that. Happens to me sometimes. Put events out. So I hope someone turns up. Wrong. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. Everybody else is watching this. Because what we're doing, we're actually almost putting a block on that. So if we can avoid the worry, we'll step into the right vibration. And I'm sure that's what we want. And Reiki will teach us that. You know, if you just kind of like get yourself centered in that moment and just think, okay, I'm here, I'm good. Worry, what's that? I don't even know what that is. Then you're on a winner. Now, the third one, I love this one, is, and I said this is my favorite, is compassion. Compassion. And it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? If we can truly step into those compassionate fields of energy, can be a challenge, um, especially if someone's done a crime, for example. Say they've caught like nicking, I don't know, sort of like some money from a post office or something, and they're arrested. And, you know, I'm not going to say this is wrong, but with justification, you think, good, they got what they deserved. And a compassionate person would be thinking, right, they've been caught, and they're going to serve their time, they're going to get punished for their action. But you start to think, like, well, why did they do that in the first place? What's caused them to be in that scenario? And And you like think like, could they be rehabilitated? You know, and that is more the compassionate angle. It's not disregarding what's happened. It's not like getting punched in the face and saying, it's okay, I forgive you. You know, it's more a case of like allowing due process to happen, for want of a better word, and then looking at it later and thinking like, why did they do that? And then you start, and it's almost like a higher level of understanding. It's like from Reiki teachers, the higher perspective of why these things happen and what can be done to change it. The energy of change is so important. If we can get into the energy of change, compassion will follow. And it's like, I'm use that as a bit of an extreme scenarios, but it could be that someone who you work with keeps coming in late and you're getting irritated. See, we're dipping into anger, aren't we? Getting irritated with them. And then you find out later, when you've had a discussion with them, they got some problems at home that's going on. Suddenly, I think most of us, our whole outlook would change, wouldn't it? You'd want to help that person. You'd want to put that energy. All right, there are people who are just of a lower vibration who want, but on the whole, most decent humans would go out there, try and put that compassionate side in. But here's the rub. This is why I like this one. Compassion is also for yourself. Show yourself some compassion. Say, for example, you do something wrong. Say, imagine you're a teenager. You get absolutely hammered. You get home and, you know, where you are, you make a right mess at home. And we won't go into the sordid details, but let's imagine the next day your mother's there standing over you saying like you're going to clean up that mess you made last night. So, you know, it's not pointing as well there because I was on the receiving end a couple of times from that, and quite rightly so. Um, but then you say, "Oh, why did I do that? I feel so bad for what's happened," and you're beating yourself up over it. The compassionate side would later think like, "Okay, you've done something you shouldn't have done, but let's forget about that now. Learn from that lesson and move on and get yourself into it because you could potentially keep staying in that lower vibration because it makes you feel a bit sheepish, doesn't it? You know, oh, I've done this, I should have done that. Well, really, we should have our wings out, you know, be like the angels, wings out, chest up, proud, and just say to us, well, it's an experience. And that's really what a lot of this is about, every experience. So don't try not to knock your self on the head with a cricket bat or a baseball bat for my friends in America. You know, so it's like get yourself back into an even keel and just think, okay, it happened. We'll try not to go down that road again. But even if I do, it's like an itch that needs to be scratched. But on the whole, I know I'm on a good path. That is a more high vibrational energy, which probably would be better to step into that energy. The next one, honesty. Just for today, be honest. And being honest is, again, it's not quite as simple, is it? You think, oh, well, I'm always honest. How many times do we bite our tongue over something? Someone to do something untoward, and you're like, just to keep the peace, I'm going to bite my tongue. And we start also then generating anger, don't we? Because there's that resentment. Instead of like getting into a space where we can just be honest and just say to someone, and you don't have to be nasty because you don't have to be confrontational. It's what I call being assertive rather than aggressive. And you just say something like, I don't really think that was fair, do you? And you just spin it back on that person a little bit, and then they just think about, I'll have to think about that one, and it just generates, and it's liberating for the person who does it because it gives them that sense of freedom. If they're being compelled to hold it in, then we get that simmering jar, don't we? Or that build up of pressure, and then bang, it explodes, and not pretty, is it? We don't want to be there. So just think to yourself, just be honest, and be honest with yourself as well. It's like really is about that, being honest. That, for example, a good one is like you're trying to lose a bit of weight, and you think, oh, it'll be all right. I'll eat this Mars bar. It's not going to do anything. Deep down, you're lying to yourself. It's another angle we can look at it. But then again, see how these interact. So imagine you just ate that Mars bar. You don't want to go down a road of, oh, I shouldn't have ate that Mars bar, because then we're coming to the compassion one, aren't we? We're infringing upon that. So get out of that energy and more just being honest in general. And of course, there's so many angles of honesty, but I don't want to go on to. I like to keep these for about 20 minutes or so. We'll be here all night, and I know a lot of people say, Gary, I'm bored now. I'm going. And on that note, let's move on to the final one. Be humble. Be humble is again just a nice way of living. Don't get caught up in the ego. Don't be thinking, for example, I use Reiki as an example. Imagine I've done a beautiful, oh, look at me, I'm such a good healer. That person looked at, they came in this wall, they could barely walk, and now they're jumping around with, like, as if they could do the 100 meters in 15 seconds. You know, and no, just no. We don't want to go there, because hubris can come from where humble is out of balance. We're not humble at all. It's just like everything is about me. The way to spot these people is when they keep saying, I have done this, I have done that, I am so good, I'm so glorious. I mean, even today, I was a bit, I'm always get a little bit like sort of sheepish about saying, oh, I'm a Reiki master teacher. I really don't like that term. I just prefer someone who works a lot with Reiki, practitioner or instructor would be better for me. But hey ho, I am a Reiki master, so I'm not going to sell myself short. But also, I'm not going to get to that stage. Oh, look at me, I'm this wonderful healer, blah blah blah. It's just come through me. I'm a bridge, as we all are. And sure, I may have some more knowledge than others, but for sure, some of you people watching right now have a hell of a lot more knowledge than I've got. I ain't gonna lie. Um, but it is knowing that we have our place. We are all special in our own way, which is why it's important we don't go the other way as well. We don't get so humble that we become a doormat, and sort of like to the point of like sort of like you come to the, oh, that person's so much more worthy than me. I need to step aside and let them all, because then we kind of going into almost like the master and servant routine, and we have in the past and even today meant to look down and be obsequious to our betters. No one is better than you. No one's better than me. We are who we are, and that is how it's meant to be. So, every I'm going to end right there. Thank you so much for stopping on by and taking the time to watch this. And if you got to the end, am I going to know you're at the end? Say angels. If you say angels, you are an angel because you watched this whole thing, and I know you're certainly probably working with that Reiki energy. I'm going to say to you, keep on sending the Reiki, people. We need to be doing that. Keep putting that love and light out there. And if you got this far, I wasn't going to say this. If you put bookies in the comment, I've got a free little booklet that I can send to you. Put that down. I will be asking for your email. And that way, when you send me that, I can send that little freebie off to you. It's just a few, it's about 1,500 words, a little e-booklet with just my thoughts about sort of like never surrender, I think it's called. Just about like, keeping going when we need to. I'm going to stop there. Gary, shut up now. Go. Sweet adieu and take care. Much love to each and every one of you.